So today I'm going to give you a pretty comprehensive list of things you need to do before you go ahead and buy a new iPhone. Now, none of these are in any particular order, and you don't really have to do all of them, especially if you are a seasoned iPhone buyer, but some of these are going to be some really helpful tips to make sure you don't get ripped off and to make sure you're going to get the best iPhone for you at the right time. Which is why my very first tip is that make sure you know when the new iPhones are coming out. In fact, I did a whole video about it. I will link it below and pin a comment with that video to make sure that you always know when is going to be the best time to buy a new iPhone. Like, for example, I'm shooting this video now towards the end of December. New iPhones just came out a few months ago. It's a pretty good time to buy a new iPhone. But how would you know that if you're just entering the Apple ecosystem, or you've never had an iPhone before, or you're somebody that doesn't really follow Apple products that often? Maybe you're somebody that just gets a new phone every 4 or 5 years. You have no clue when the new iPhone is coming out. So my general rule of thumb is if it's like within 6 months or less of the new iPhone coming out, I would hold off and just wait until the new models come out and then look at buying one of those. And at the very least, if you want to save money, what you can do is you can buy one of the older models, which are going to be today's models that will be offered at a discounted price once the new models come out. And Apple usually releases their new iPhone models anywhere between the end of September all the way through the end of October. It's usually in September though, 9 times out of 10. I think the year after we had the pandemic, they released the phones in October, but generally you're gonna see new models come out at the end of September. If you're within 6 months of September, I would wait and just wait for that new model to come out unless you absolutely need to get a new iPhone today because it just broke, something happened, you lost your old one, it got stolen, whatever. Obviously you don't have a choice then. But if you're in the position like you just want to upgrade, then you should definitely wait if there's going to be new phones coming in the near future. But on the other hand, like right now, if you decide that you want to get an iPhone and it's like December, January, then you might want to go ahead and go for it because it's still going to be a while before we get the new phones. And then of course, something very important that you have to do is you need to make sure that your current iPhone is backed up. And I'm not going to get into details on how to do that in this video. You can either do it straight to your computer or you can do it with iCloud. And I did make some videos on that on this channel as well. Now, the next thing you want to do is research all the latest models that are out right now and figure out which iPhone is for you. One of the most common complaints I hear about people that want to switch to an iPhone or just don't buy an iPhone because they say, oh, those are too expensive. I'm not spending $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 on a phone. Well, the reality is you don't have to. The cheapest iPhone right now is Apple's iPhone SE, which is starting at $429. And by the way, if you are watching this video within a couple of months of this video coming out, then you might want to hold off on buying an iPhone SE because that is the one exception to the rule I said earlier. Typically, Apple doesn't release the iPhone SE with the traditional iPhone models that they release every single year. Usually those will come out in like the springtime of the following year. So we just had a release in September 2024. Typically the iPhone SE models will be released in the spring of 2025, and they don't come out every year. It's every 3 or 4 years or so they come out with one of those iPhone SE models. So if that's the model you're considering, you probably still want to wait until March or April to upgrade. But that being said, there is an iPhone for everybody's budget, ranging from $429 for the base model iPhone SE all the way up to the iPhone 16 Pro Max that starts at $1,199. And maybe you fall somewhere in the middle. Maybe you don't need a Pro Max phone, but the SE is a little too old school and not a big enough screen. Maybe you can get something in the middle. Like, for example, Apple's still selling regular iPhone 15 models for $699. That's not a bad deal. You can also go down to an iPhone 14 model for $599. So there really is an iPhone for everybody in today's lineup, which didn't always used to be the case with Apple, but I think it's safe to say that if you want to be in the Apple ecosystem and if you want an iPhone, you can pretty much afford one because every other Android iPhone with similar capabilities is going to cost you the same, if not more, than the base iPhone SE. Now, this next tip is a big one that you really want to be aware of, and you want to know what are your trade-in options. How are you going to get rid of your previous phone, if you're going to get rid of it at all? And you're going to have a few options. Your number one option is going to be you can trade it in with Apple. Obviously, this is going to be the easiest way to do it, but also a lot of times you're going to get the least amount of money for your phone. So if you're looking at getting the maximum amount of value from your previous iPhone, you might not want to trade it in with Apple. But if you're just looking for the quickest way to get rid of it and you want to know what Apple's going to give you, you can go to Apple's website. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, you can go to Apple Trade-in and then go to iPhone. It'll tell you right here what they're giving you for all of the iPhone models. So even last year's 15 Pro Max that also started at $1199 for, the base 15 Pro Max is now only worth $650. So they're only giving you about half of what the brand new resale value of this phone was just a little over a year ago. And you can see going down the list, they pretty much spell it out what they're going to give you for these phones. Another thing you can do is you can go to a website called Swappa, and you can sell your iPhone over here. If you go and check out what you can get for your iPhone, it's always going to be more. For like if we go for the iPhone 15 Pro Max here, we can see it's definitely going to be more than what Apple will give you. You can see here that the average person is selling their iPhone 15 Pro Max for $957, which is a whole $300 more than what Apple's going to give you for just a little more effort on your part. There is some fees involved with this, but you're still going to come out way ahead if you do it this way. And then of course another option is eBay. eBay will also give you an idea of how much you can get for your phone. Let's just use the same example, the iPhone 15 Pro Max again. So let's go with unlocked, and we'll just go with the base model 256, color, we'll use my color, blue titanium, and it's going to be used. It's never going to be new unless you never took the phone out of the box. And then we'll say it's in good condition, not perfect, and it comes with the original box and the charger cable. And then if you go click continue to list, now eBay used to tell you how much you could get for the phone, roughly like an estimate right here on this page, but apparently they're no longer doing that. They want you to just go ahead and sell it. And I used to sell a lot of my old iPhones on eBay like this, but to be honest with you, it's not really worth it anymore because eBay's fees have gone up considerably over the years. And then when you combine that with PayPal fees as well, they're usually taking about 13% right off the top of whatever you're getting for the phone. So it's probably the least cost-effective way to sell your phone. And if you're going to go through that trouble, you might as well maybe just trade it in with Apple or sell it on Swappa instead. Now the next thing you need to do is make sure you buy the right model, make sure you buy the right amount of storage that you need. Some people like to keep a lot of files on their iPhone, and luckily a lot of the base model Pro phones now are coming with a minimum of 256 gigabytes of storage, which crazy enough is the same amount of their base model computers nowadays. So that is a big upgrade for iPhones. I remember my first iPhone only had 4 gigabytes of storage, and that was the iPhone 4 back in 2010 or something. So iPhones have seen a huge upgrade in the amount of base storage you can get on these phones, and you can store a tremendous amount of data on them now, but just don't overpay. If you're not somebody that keeps a lot of stuff on your phone, you definitely want to go with a lower storage tier option, and the opposite's true if you're going to need a lot of space. Now the next thing you want to consider is, are you going to be switching phone carriers or are you keeping your same carrier? If you're keeping your same carrier, you can easily just skip to the next step, and a lot of people will stick with it, but a lot of times every year, these carriers do come out with new incentives to switch to their cell phone service. And depending on how much you're paying right now and what kind of deal you have, and maybe how many iPhones you need to get, if you need one of those family plans and you're trying to get new phones for the whole family, you might want to look into some of those programs from Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T. Even Boost Mobile now is working directly with Apple. And over the last couple of years, those deals have actually been pretty appealing when it comes to getting a new phone for a much lower price. Obviously, the downside is you're kind of stuck with that carrier until those phones are paid off, and if you decide to leave early, sometimes you have contract termination fees, and plus you have to pay off the balance on all of the phones. So if you are going to go that route, just make sure it's something that you're willing to commit to. Also, if you're somebody who uses the iPhone upgrade program, or you're looking to get into that so you can get the latest iPhone every single year, I also made a video on that, which I will link down in the description below. Next, you want to look at reviews. Say you're somebody that doesn't want to buy the new iPhone day one. If you're watching this video, you probably don't, and you're probably looking for some guidance. guidance. And the best way to get that guidance is let all these people on YouTube be the guinea pig and buy the new phone first. Just like I bought the iPhone 16 Pro Max and I went through 4 of them and all of them had the same camera problem. How would you know that if you didn't see those videos? You probably wouldn't. And so things like that pop up, and a lot of these YouTube reviewers, they will buy every single iPhone model and review all of them when they come out. And that's not something I really do here on this channel. I try to focus more on help videos and how to do things here on this channel. I'm not really a tech reviewer, so to speak. But I like helping people figure out different questions they have when it comes to their iPhone, and that's what this channel is about. So if you're looking for some guidance on which kind of phone to buy, just wait until the new phones actually come out, and within a week of release, you're gonna see a flood of videos on YouTube. You probably won't even have to look it up, but if you just type in, the latest iPhone reviews or whatever model you're interested in, there's probably gonna be a dozen videos on it at least to give you an idea of what other people have to say about it, any issues they might have encountered, and also how it stacks up against previous models. But the best thing that you can do, if possible, is to go into a local Apple store or a Best Buy or anywhere that sells the latest iPhone model near you and just look at them for yourself. Pick them up, touch them, test them out. See how it stacks up against your current iPhone. It might not be as impressive as you were hoping, because the reality is, ever since the iPhone 13 days and beyond, up till today, the iPhones have gotten so good that even if you have an iPhone 13 or 13 Pro model from a few years ago, that phone is still more than enough. It's still more than capable for everyday needs of what people use it for. When you hold that iPhone 13 in your hand versus the latest 16, you're not going to notice a whole lot of difference. Are there new features? Of course there are. Are the new ones better for the most part? Of course they are. But it might not be a noticeable enough upgrade for you to maybe want to make that jump. So that's why it's important to go and check them out in person for yourself and just play around with it. It doesn't cost you anything, just a little bit of time to go ahead and spend 20 minutes on the phone and see if it's something you're interested in buying. The only time you really need to update your iPhone is if your iPhone is so old that it no longer gets the latest iOS updates. That can be a security concern for you. If that's you, then you do want to upgrade to a newer iPhone, but even then it doesn't have to be the latest model. Like I showed you, Apple still sells the iPhone 14, which is already from a couple of years ago, so you don't have to buy the latest phone. And also, you can buy these phones for a discount. That's my next tip for you. You don't have to buy these phones from Apple. I showed you guys that Apple is selling the iPhone 14 for $599, but you can go to Amazon and probably find it for cheaper. One word of caution here is you want to be careful, because as I just type this in and take a look here, what you're seeing is a lot of these listings are from basically unvetted sources. You have sometimes there's used phones here, like there's a used iPhone 14 says renewed, same thing with this 14 Pro Max. And when you go down the lineup here, what I'm noticing right away is a lot of these phones are renewed. That's not the same thing as refurbished. It could just be somebody bought the phone and wiped it down a little bit and then is trying to flip it here on Amazon for a profit. So you really got to be careful with this. Honestly, in my opinion, if you're going to buy one of these phones, especially something this old, I would still want to buy a brand new one. So I would stay away from buying anything renewed like this, especially for these prices. I mean, for $480, okay, and you can buy the same phone from Apple for $599, you might as well spend the extra $100 and get the warranty. And that way, if anything happens to the phone, Apple's gonna stand behind it. And if you buy one of these renewed phones, it might come with like a 30 or 90-day warranty from the seller. After that, you're gonna be on your own. So I would stay away from stuff like this, but I'll bet you if you went to go look at the iPhone 15, we might find some brand new models still. Wow. But actually not. You're actually not seeing the brand new models. So what about iPhone 16? Even the iPhone 16 models, which is this year's models, all of the options that are coming up on Amazon are showing as renewed. So I would kind of stay away from this. Amazon can be good for buying brand new Apple products when it comes to their computers, but apparently not so much on their iPhones. So you might want to just stick with Apple or your cell phone retailer and stick with the brand new one. If you really want to roll the dice, you can get a used one here on Amazon or on Swappa or on eBay if you're really trying to save a buck and you believe that you're going to be able to get a good device without issues. And here's the thing, if you're going to keep the phone for a long time, it's going to be worth it to buy that brand new phone and make sure everything's working and get that warranty. But if you just need a temporary phone for the next 6 months to a year and you want to get a deal, it might be worth exploring one of these options. Now, the last thing you want to do is make sure if your current accessories are going to work with your new iPhone. So for example, this iPhone here is the iPhone 14 Pro Max. It still has the Lightning port. All of the new iPhones, the iPhone 15 and later, have USB-C ports. So this is something that if you have a lot of accessories that you use with your iPhone and you plug it in to your Lightning port, you're going to need new cables, you're going to need new adapters, you're going to need new things to use with your new iPhone. You also might have some old peripherals like an Apple Watch, for example, that's so old that it might not work with the newest iPhones. You want to make sure that the things you have are going to be compatible with the new phone, and if not, make sure you upgrade to the latest peripherals that you might need. This includes things like screen protectors or phone cases, anything that you might use right now that's not going to work for the new model phone that you might need to go out and buy. So that pretty much sums it up. I hope this list helped you out a lot. If it did, consider subscribing to the channel, and thanks for watching.